briefing for the Judiciary is now called to order. Please rise for the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walamig pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga atin at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we are gathered for the budget deliberation. We pray for your guidance as we discuss our national budget. Enlighten our minds in every decision that we make. Give us your grace that we may effectively do our parts as public servants. Bless our plans, programs, and projects so that we may achieve our objectives for your greater glory. Amen. Our guests to be seated. Good morning. The chair would ask the committee COMSEC to recognize the members of the House physically present and also those who are present via Zoom. COMSEC.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Physically present on the floor are Vice Chairman Jocelyn Lim Kaichong, Representative John Baronda, and Representative Sarah Jane Elago. For the representatives present in the Zoom are the following: Deputy Speaker Geogracias Victor Savillano, Deputy Speaker Henry S. Ominal, Vice Chairperson Gonzaga, Vice Chairperson Matugas, Vice Chairperson Ping Tejada, Representative Balindong, Representative Bascog, Representative Natividad Nagano, Representative Tamunting, Representative Ortega, Representative Singson Mihan, Representative Edibon Plaza, Representative Abdullah Dimaporo, Representative Veloso, Representative Taduran, Representative Hipolito Castelo, Representative Zarate, Representative Rodriguez, Representative Tulfo, Representative Zarate, Representative Rufus Rodriguez, Representative Tulfo, Representative Chato, Representative Franz Castro, and Representative Carl Nicolas Cari.
Thank you, COMSEC. Also, the chair would like to ask you to recognize also our resource persons present here today.
For the resource person present here today, we have Court Administrator Jose Amaitas Marquez and Deputy Court Administrator Raul Villanueva. In the Zoom present are from the Supreme Court, we have Associate Justice Alexander Gesmundo and Associate Justice Rodil Zalameda. For Court of Appeals, we have Acting Presiding Justice Remedios Salazar Fernando, Associate Justice Fernanda Lampas Peralta, Associate Justice Danton Buicer, Associate Justice Edwin Sorongon. For the Sandigan Bayan, we have Associate Justice Ann de la Cruz, Associate Justice Marian Manalac, Associate Justice Geraldine Faith Ekong. We also have Presiding Justice Amparo Cabotaje Tang and Justice Carl M. Miranda. For the Court of Appeals, Tax Appeals, we have Presiding Justice Roman G. Del Rosario. Also, Mr. Chairman, we also have Deputy Speaker Aurelio Dong Gonzalez present in the Zoom.
Thank you, Comsec. Also, please register. Also attending via internet, Deputy Speaker Paulo Duterte, APRO Chairman, Chairman Eric Goyap, and also Vice Chairman, Representative Jonathan C. Alvarado.
Mr. Chair, I move that we dispense
Yes,
the calling of the roll. Yeah.
Congresswoman Josie.
Mr. Chair, I move that we dispense the calling of the roll.
There is a motion to dispense with the calling of the roll. Do I hear any second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
So we now go on to our list of interpellators. The chair would like to recognize first from the minority, Representative Franz Castro. Representative Franz Castro, you may now proceed. You have 3 minutes, and I'd like to remind all the members of the House who are on the list of interpellators that the chair gives you 3 minutes for your time to question our guest here. And before I recognize Representative Franz Castro, or before I give the floor to Representative Franz Castro, the chair would like to recognize the present via Zoom Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta. So Representative Castro, please proceed now. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa ating mga kapamilya sa Judiciary. Siyempre po yung ating mga kasamahan, mga colleagues. Magandang umaga po. Mr. Chair, almost 9.35 billion ang binawas mula sa Supreme Court proposal na 47.061 billion. Ang inilaan lamang sa NEP ay 37.708 billion sa total na budget for 2021. So halos 2 billion lang ang itinaas sa budget mula sa 35.9 billion noong GAA 2020. Kailangan din ng courts na mag-adapt at mag-upgrade sa mga new normal. Pero ito lang po yung mga pondong inilaan sa kanila. In fact, Mr. Chair, in the General Administration and Support, meron pong 88% na total na tinanggal. Tama po ba ang tingin ko po? Tama po ba, Mr. Chair? Can I ask the confirmation of the Judiciary?
The chair would like to recognize the court administrator.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. And before I answer, may I greet everyone here. Pleasant morning, especially those who are here in the session hall. No? Of course, the chair, Congressman Manix Dalipe, and then si Congresswoman Lim Kai Chong and Congresswoman Sarah Jane Ilago. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. At tungkol naman po dun sa tanong ni Congresswoman Franz Castro, if I may present yung first few slides, no, just to verify yung tanong po ni Congresswoman Castro, no. Can we show the first slide po? Doon po sa ang tama po si Congresswoman Castro, no, na from the 2020 budget of 41.23 billion, ang in-increase lang po na nakalagay po sa NEP ngayon ay 2.31 billion. So ang increase from the 2020 budget to the 2021 NEP is only 2.31 billion. And that comprises mga salaries, no? Kasi by law, tumaas po yung mga sweldo ng ating kawani sa hudikatura. So talagang kailangan po tumaas ang budget ng konti. Pero doon po sa aming proposed 2021 budget, ang hinihingi po namin ay 55.88 billion. No? And when I say proposed budget for the judiciary, lahat na po ng korte to, no? Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, Court of Tax Appeals, kasama na po yung Presidential Electoral Tribunal, and our first and second level courts, no? Na mahigit 2,000 sa buong Pilipinas. No? So ang hinihingi po talaga namin ay 55.88 billion. No? But ang binigay lang po sa NEP ay 43.54 billion. So meron po tayong variance, no, or difference na 12.34 billion. No? In fact, Mr. Chair, I wanted to clarify with the Chair if we can make brief presentation po muna before we proceed with the interpellation, or can I just present as we go on during the interpellation, Your Honor?
Yes, you can present as we go on.
Okay. So, maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. So, katulad po nung tanong ni Congresswoman Castro, no po, ang variance po talaga is 12.34, no? But out of the 12.34 variance, ang gusto ho sana naming hilingin ngayong umaga, no, dito po sa House of Representatives is for an additional 6.58 billion, no? Instead of the variance na 12.34 na binigay sa NEP, hindi na po namin hihingin yung kabuuan na 12.34 billion. Instead, we will just be pleading for 6.58 billion. Ito pong 6.58 billion ay we can break this down, no? Sa Supreme Court at saka sa lower courts, additional 5.07 billion in addition to the NEP. For the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, no, na siya pong dumidinig ng protesta ngayon, 15.35 million lang po ang additional na hinihingi. For the Court of Appeals, 994.5 million. For the Sandigan Bayan, 406.4 million. And for the Court of Tax Appeals, 98.5 million. No? For a total of 6.58 billion. So, yan lang po yung hinihingi namin through a motion for reconsideration in addition to the NEP of 2021 for the judiciary. Later on, siguro, I can proceed with the breakdown of all these amounts, no? As we go on with the briefing or hearing, Your Honor. Unless you want me to proceed now.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we just ask for the written amount or a copy of those mentioned by the court, by the clerk of court on the 6.48 billion. Can we have a copy of that, Mr. Chair? so
The
that
chair
in
would
due
like to
time we
request
can
the court
amend.
administrator to furnish the Committee on Appropriations the breakdown of the 6.58 billion. What the members have right now, which was sent to them through email or to the or to our chat group, is the total amount of the 2021 NEP. But we are more interested to know the 6.58 billion which our guest here right now would really want to ask from the House of Representatives, the House of the People. Court
Yes.
Administrator.
Yes, Your Honor. Opo, Congresswoman Castro. In fact, kasi po ang aming original schedule was supposed to be on Monday pa, but na-move tayo. Last night, we were able to send our PowerPoint presentation lang, which already actually details all these, no? But after today's hearing, we will formally write, Your Honors, no? The House of Representatives, to formalize our motion for reconsideration, including the breakdown, no, for the 6.58 billion.
Please do so because the
Salamat po.
committee would really want to check it, and I know the Deputy Speaker in charge for Finance, Deputy Speaker L. Ray Villaforte, would really want to help the Judiciary.
Maraming
So
salamat
we
po.
will now move on for your follow-up question.
May I continue,
Representative
Mr.
Franz
Chair?
Castro, please proceed.
I continue. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ngayon pong panahon ng pandemic, ano po yung mga measures na ginagawa ng korte, lalong-lalo na po sa lower courts, para makasabay po, Mr. Chair, sa new normal, at syempre ma-fulfill yung health protocols like yung social distancing, health standards, at iba pa. Meron po ba, Mr. Chair, na ICT and IT infrastructure para sa courts? Kasi, Mr. Chair, marami na po ako napuntahang mga korte, halimbawa po doon sa Tagum, sa Talaingod. Maliit po yung courtroom, walang maayos na ventilation, tapos gusto pa ng judge physical presence, just in case na magkakaroon ng mga arraignment at kung ano po. So, paano po ba yung ganitong mga kondisyon? May provision po ba ang korte para doon sa virtual na halimbawa arraignment, virtual na mga pagdinig sa kaso?
Court
At magkano
Administrator.
po yung budget sa ICT?
The Chair would like to recognize again Court Administrator Marquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Salamat po sa tanong, Congresswoman Castro. Noong una pong pumutok itong pandemic, no, sometime March, at dito po, lalong-lalo na po dito sa National Capital Judicial Region, talagang kinailangan po natin isarado physically yung mga korte natin. Ano? And that is why we immediately adapted into doing the court's work electronically. No? So ang una po natin ginawa, pinayagan po natin yung mga electronic filings. No? And then, in the next few weeks, ang dami po nating mga circulars, no? Si Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta mismo, no? At talagang namuno dito, talagang minonitor through our office, Office of the Court Administrator, all first and second level courts. And right away, we were able initially, no, to provide Office 365 accounts to around 1,000 courts nationwide. Kaya noon pa man, una pa man, meron na po tayong mga virtual hearings, no? Video conferencing hearings. In fact, ang as of now, siguro na ang naitala po namin, no, na monitor namin, baka mga nasa mga almost 100,000 video conferencing hearings being conducted by our courts nationwide at a success rate of around 87%. No? So tuloy-tuloy po ang mga hearings natin, no? Kahit na meron tayong lockdown. Ito rin po ay makikita doon sa mga na-release nating tinatawag nating persons deprived of liberty, no? PDLs. From March 17, no? From the time we locked down, and then nagkaroon tayo ng ECQ, MECQ, GCQ, bumalik ng MECQ, pag ganun-ganon, so bubukas yung korte, magsasarado. But tuloy-tuloy po yung trabaho ng ating mga korte, no? So, ang mga na-release nating PDL, nasa mga more than 60,000 na po, no? Magsimula nung March 17. So, tuloy-tuloy po. But, you know, kahit po katulad ngayon, no, nasa GCQ po tayo, ang National Capital Judicial Region, we have to make our, we have to feel, let the people, no, feel the presence of the court, no? So, si Chief Justice Peralta also ordered that our judges should be in court, no? Talaga para maramdaman ng taong bayan ang presensya ng ating mga korte. Kaya, while our judges are in court, they at their discretion, no, they can allow the appearance of parties virtually or remotely, no? So yung mga abogado po, they can appear in court while they are in their respective residences. Ang ating mga persons deprived of liberty, hindi na po aalis ng kulungan. Nandun po sila sa BJMP, kausap po natin ng BJMP dito, at tuloy-tuloy po ang mga hearings, no? So, ito po yung tinatawag na new normal, no? Lalong-lalo na meron pa tayong coronavirus, no? Now, tama-tama po kasi, of course, doon po sa talagang sa MR namin, no? Kasama po doon sa 6.58 billion, talagang meron po tayong dinagdag doon, ano? Kasi just 2 weeks ago po, all courts have already been given Office 365 platforms, no, or accounts, meaning all of the courts can already conduct video conferencing hearings. Katulad po nung sinasabi ni Congresswoman Castro, doon daw sa Tagum, medyo maliit yung korte, but kung meron na pong internet connection, they can already, I know for a fact, no, that yung sa Tagum, talagang na-authorize na yan to conduct video conferencing hearings, no? So lahat po yan, talagang pwede na ang ating mga korte. Now, kasama po doon sa ating MR, no, sa motion for reconsideration natin na 6.58 billion, is yung connectivity ng all courts, no? Because right now po, Mr. Chair, ang nagiging problema natin, no, some of our courts nahihirapan doon sa internet connection. So, with this 2021 motion for reconsideration, budget for 2021, sinasama na po namin doon yung connectivity, no? Upgrading of bandwidth for all courts para po yung ating video conferencing hearings talagang matuloy. I mentioned earlier na yung mga almost 100,000 video conferencing hearings at a success rate of 87% lang po. Ang ibig sabihin po noon, meron po tayong mga 13% na the court attempted to conduct virtual hearing, online hearing, pero unsuccessful kasi interconnectivity problems, no? But with our MR and then upgrading of bandwidth, palagay ko po, masusolusyonan natin yung problemang yan. Maraming salamat po.
Congresswoman Castro.
Follow-up lang
For-
po, Mr. Chair, last na to, no, and my manifestation. Thank you po, no. Including din po ba dito yung mga arraignment? Pwede na po ba yun sa video conferencing, yung mga arraignment ng mga kaso?
Court Administrator, yung mga arraignment daw po. Pwede na?
Yes, Your Honor. Ang video conferencing hearings po natin, nung una, no, katulad po nung nasabi ko kanina, talagang minonitor po ni Chief Justice Peralta yan, simulang-simula pa. Nung una, ang video conference hearings natin, if in criminal cases concerning persons deprived of liberty. Initially, yun lang po. Pero nung tumagal po yung pandemic, hindi po pwedeng yun lang kasi wala nang ibang gagawin. Hindi na po tatakbo yung mga ibang kaso. So, sinama na po lahat ng criminal cases, lahat ng civil cases in all stages. So, from arraignment, pre-trial, trial proper, hanggang promulgation of decision, pwede na po yung video conferencing hearings.
Okay,
Thank you.
last manifestation, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please proceed with your
Yes,
manifestation.
Mr. Chair, we acknowledge and Naintindihan po natin yung problema ng ating mga korte. So alam naman natin na marami po mga PDLs at maraming mga kaso. At kapag hindi po talaga nagkaroon ng mga ICT at mag-adapt sa new normal ang korte, ay talagang tatagal po ang mga kaso. Marami nga pong mga kaso na ano na yung mga sentensya ng mga PDL. Kaya lang, hindi po gumagalaw. Kaya po, I move, Mr. Chair, that the requested restoration of funds amounting to 6.58 billion be restored in the budget of the Judiciary, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Mr. Chair.
Maraming salamat po, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Franz Castro. Next, the Chair would like to recognize the hardworking Deputy Speaker El Rey Villaforte. Deputy Speaker El Rey Villaforte. Okay. I will call him again later. Next, the chair would like to recognize Representative Rufus Rodriguez. Representative Rufus Rodriguez,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
please proceed. You have
Thank
3
you,
minutes.
Mr. Chairman. First, good morning to the Chief Justice of the land, Justice Susdado, Chief Justice Susdado Peralta, and the Associate Justices of the Supreme Court. And also to Presiding Justice of the Court of Appeals, Remedios Salazar Fernando, the Sandigan Bayan Presiding Justice, Amparo Kabutahitang, and also our head and Presiding Justice Court of Tax Appeals, Roman Del Rosario. Good morning to all in the family of the Judiciary. Mr. Chairman, as earlier pointed out, the Supreme Court and the Judiciary would need an additional 6.58 billion pesos. This is just one half of what has been requested by the Judiciary of 12.34 billion to be able to perform well and to be able to efficiently discharge justice in this country. It has been well known that our judiciary receives a small portion of our budget, the 4.5 trillion budget, and a small percentage of our GDP compared to our Asian neighbors. We have always been lagging behind because we fail to give to the judiciary what it deserves and it really needs. And that is why I am here, Mr. Chairman, to be able to express my support, and we would all should join the Supreme Court in requesting for the augmentation of what has been given by the DBM in the NEP of 6.58 billion, because that will increase the budget of the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the Sandigan Bayan, and the Court of Tax Appeals. And I therefore, Mr. Chairman, would like to express my support not only for what has been given in the NEP, but in order, for example, to increase connectivity at this point, at the pandemic, at this very prolonged pandemic, we need to have connectivity of our courts to the lawyers and to the clients and to those who are seeking justice from our courts, all stakeholders. And because of that, I will therefore just end this manifestation with a statement of my strong support. And I know that our good chairman, Chairman Dalipe, will lead all of us, members of the Judiciary Committee, and also members of the Committee on the Committee on Appropriations, that in the plenary, Mr. Chairman, we should be able to bring in and augment what is needed by the judiciary. More than ever, in this time of the pandemic, we need a strong judiciary. We need a strong judiciary that can connect to all stakeholders. And therefore, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to therefore end this manifestation by strongly supporting the augmentation of 6.54 billion to the judiciary. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, our Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. The chair notes your concern for the judiciary. Court Administrator Marquez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nagpapasalamat lang po kami kay Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. Tama po yung kanyang sinabi, no, na in fact, doon po sa 2020 budget, no, ito pong budget for this year, ang budget po ng judiciary is not even 1% of the budget of the country. No? It's only 0.9% po. So talagang nagpapasalamat po kami, no, sa pledge of support ni Congressman Rodriguez. Before I proceed, Mr. Chair, may I just recognize and greet Congresswoman Jam Baronda, hindi ko po nabati kanina, no? And Congresswoman Nina Taluran, nakararating lang din po, na hindi ko rin na po nabati. Pasensya na po. Maraming salamat po. And before I proceed, Your Honor, kasi kanina po na ang request namin yung 6.58 na motion for reconsideration, meron pa po kaming dalawang request doon po sa special provisions, no? Special provision number 2 and special provision number 7, no? Doon po kasi sa NEP, meron pong wording, no, doon sa special provision number 2, and this pertains to our special allowance for justices and judges, yung tinatawag po na SAJ, no? At nakalagay po dito, if I may read part of it, no, the
Please
special
proceed.
allowance of justices and judges and all other positions in the judiciary with equivalent rank, which have already been fully integrated into their salaries, shall cease to be granted. And then the amount of 672 million, and so forth and so on. Meron lang po kaming counterpart proposal, no? And this counterpart proposal naman po has been requested for the last 5 years, and na-approve naman po, no, sa previous GAA. So ang pakiusap po namin, if we can just adopt the previous wordings of the previous GAAs, no, instead of the wordings that the 2021 NEP is putting, no. Nakalagay din po yun doon sa aming PowerPoint presentation, yung previous yung proposed wording namin, which is consistent, as I've mentioned, in the previous GAAs, no. Ganun din po sa special provision number 7, and this refers to maintenance and other operating expenses, no, yung MOOE for lower courts, no. Nakalagay po kasi doon, it will be directly released, no, to the lower courts. Meron din kaming counter proposal, nire-release din naman talaga namin yan directly, but we have kasi po to determine, no, the needs of each court. Kasi although yung mga katulad halimbawa regional trial court, no, hindi naman po natin pwedeng bigyan ng same amount lahat ng regional trial courts, because the needs of the regional trial courts in NCJR may be different from the needs of the regional trial court in other areas, no, lalo na kung mabababa yung caseload nila. So hindi po natin pwedeng bigyan ng same amount. So yun lang po ang request namin. Nakasubmit na rin po, no, yung proposed rewording namin for both special provisions number 2 and number 7.
Okay,
Yun lang po,
noted
Your
by the
Honor.
chair. Next, the chair would like to recognize Representative Ferdy Gaite. Representative Ferdy Gaite. I'll go back to Representative Ferdy Gaite later. The chair would instead recognize Representative Euphemia Kulyamat. Representative Euphemia Kulyamat. Okay, I'll go back to Representative Kulyamat later. Next, the chair would like to recognize Representative Carlos Zarate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you
Yes.
hear me now, Mr. Chair?
You may now proceed, Representative Zarate. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa pamilya ng Judiciary. Ang kinatawang ito po ay una, sinusuportahan din po natin yung motion for reconsideration ng Judiciary, no, ma-restore yung kanilang kinaltas na 6.58 budget. As well as we are also supporting, Mr. Chair, no, nung pagbabalik nung special provision, pagbabago ng special provision number 2 and special provision number 7. If I recall, in the previous GAAs, I moved that the language as proposed by the Judiciary shall be adopted, and it was so adopted in the past GAAs. No? Ilang katanungan lang, Mr. Chair, no? Dito sa usapin ng budget and sa mga nangyayari ngayon. In October 24 of 2007, Mr. Chair, no? We welcome the move of the Supreme Court in the passage of the writ of amparo. Itong protective writ na ito ay para doon sa mga threaten yung kanilang life or liberty. But we observe, Mr. Chair, no, na nitong mga nakaraan ay mas lalong nahihirapan ang mga pumupunta sa korte para mabigyan sila ng protective writ of amparo. In fact, in the latest case that I have to cite, yung kaso ni Miss Sarah Alvarez. Kasama siya doon sa witness na supposedly ay magtitistigo na ang threatened ng kanilang buhay, but their petition was perfunctorily dismissed. And where is Miss Sarah Alvarez now? She was shot last October 17. No? At malinaw yung affidavit na sinabmit niya doon sa korte na yung buhay niya is threatened at natatakot siya na mamamatay siya because she was tagged as terrorist, she was tagged as communist, and all the others. No? So, ang question ko siguro, Mr. Chair, no, tumitindi itong ganitong mga kaso at ang isang naisip lang ng mga mamamayan, ordinarong mamamayan, ay dumulog sa korte. But if the court can no longer protect them, saan ho pupunta ang ating mga mamamayan? So, mula ho bang naisip ang ating Judiciary, ang ating Korte Suprema na pagbabago dito sa rules ng writ of amparo, Mr. Chair?
The chair would like to recognize Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Congressman Zarate, no, for your manifestation of support. Totoo po yun, ano, ang ating pong rules on writ of amparo, yan po ay was issued by the court 2007 or 2008. No? So mahigit 10 taon na po ang ating writ of amparo. Siguro ang pwede po natin gawin ay we will review, no, the procedure for the writ of amparo, and we will see how we can strengthen, no, the writ of amparo to in effect strengthen those who come before the courts, no, yung pong dumudulog sa ating mga korte at humihingi ng proteksyon, ano. Pero Your Honor, ang gusto ko lang pong sabihin, no, na ang korte po pag nagbigay na po ng utos, no, we also rely, no, on other stakeholders, no, to implement the decision of the court, no. So kung halimbawa meron po tayong isang petitioner, no, na dumulog sa korte at nag-file po ng petition for writ of amparo at naglabas na po ng desisyon ang korte, no, granting the writ, umaasa rin po tayo sa ibang sangay at ahensya ng gobyerno upang tuparin, no, ang kautusan ng ating korte. No? So siguro on that angle, titingnan din po natin how our courts, no, with the help of the other government agencies, can really and truly enforce court orders. No? Yun po ang aking masasabi as of now. Tama po yan kasi po sa ang ating Korte Suprema po, no, sa pangunguna ni Chief Justice Peralta, meron po tayong tinatawag na Rules Committee. No? At ito po, ang rules po natin ay evolving. No? At maya't maya, ito po ay nire-review. No? At ang chairperson po ng ating Rules Committee ay si Chief Justice Peralta mismo. So I'm very certain, no, that Chief Justice Peralta will welcome the review of the procedure for filing petitions for writ of amparo, and to see how we can strengthen this remedy that was given by the court more than 10 years ago. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat,
Yes,
Sir
you
Chair,
may
sa naging
continue, Congressman
katugunan ni
Zarate.
Administrator Maidas. Ano. At sana po yung pag-review niya na yan ay will be made the soonest. No? Wag na ho nating antayin na yung mga... before that, just a disclosure, ako po ay 2 beses na rin nag-file ng petition for writ of amparo sa korte at sa 2 okasyon na ito ay na-dismiss po yung petition. No? So siguro po isang pwedeng panumungkahin natin, no? Wag sana yung burden na sa petitioner. No? Nahihirapan ng mga petitioners to prove. No? So it defeats the purpose of the writ of amparo na protective writ ito. No? At wag na ho nating maantayin na masundan pa ang kaso ni Tara Alvarez na dumulog sa korte at ngayon na siya ay napaslang na no, October 7. August 7, si Attorney Ben Ramos, no, from Bacolod, also from Negros, katulad ni Sara, napaslang din. No? So, of course, tama po yun, kailangan ng cooperation ng other agencies. No? But first and foremost, kaya po tayo pumunta sa korte, ay kailangan natin yung mantle of protection. No? Dahil wala nang, pag pumunta ho sa korte, di ba yun ang sabi sa atin, ito ang huling takbuhan ng ating mga mamamayan. So sana po ay mapabilis, no, ang pag-review ng mga protective writs na ito, not only protective the writ of amparo, pwede po sigurong tingnan rin ang habeas data at maging ang writ of kalikasan, no, na innovative writs, no, writs na inisyu po ng ating Korte Suprema. Doon na lang po sa naiwan na point, no, na gusto kong linawin lang. Sa panahon ng pandemya, habang wala rin hong tigil yung pamamaslang, no, tuloy-tuloy rin po yung kaso ng pagkakalat ng COVID-19 kahit doon ho sa ating mga kulungan ay nagkakaroon ng kaso. No? Earlier, the court administrator mentioned that 60,000 or more PDLs were already released, no, upon the order of the court, no, na i-apply yung mga existing rules and laws. No. Hihingin na lang po ng kinatawang ito at isubmit sa komite saan-saan po itong mga lugar na ito at mga detention facilities or penitentiary na itong mga 60,000 na ito nanggaling at sila po ay na-release. No? Kadugtong ko po na tanong dito rin sa pag-a-apply natin ng new normal. No? Mayroon po bang guidelines na inailabas ang korte, especially dito po sa mga criminal cases, no? Dahil mayroon ho akong na-observe, no, na in the conduct of a virtual trial, habang kino-cross-examine yung akusado sa loob ng kulungan, ay sa harapan niya nandoon yung mga kapulisan, no? Hindi ho ba parang affected nito yung kanyang testimonya, no? Na hindi ito voluntary na ibinigay yung kanyang testimony. No? So yun po ang ilang mga siguro mga related questions dyan, no? Especially as we adapt in this new normal, so-called, no? Even in the conduct of trial and resolving our cases, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. That will be the last manifestation and the question as presented by Congressman Zarate, the Chair would now recognize Court Administrator Marquez for the reply.
Maraming salamat po, Congressman Zarate, no, for those inputs and comments. Sagutin ko lang po ng kaunti, no. I'd like to take this opportunity, no, kasi napag-usapan po kanina, how can we ensure the implementation of court orders, no? At nabanggit din po ng inyong lingkod at ni Congressman Zarate that in many instances, we have to rely on other branches of government, other agencies of government to implement court orders, no? On that respect po, meron pong pending bill, no, before Congress at nakapag-hearing na po tayo sa mga committees, yung aming pong proposal for judicial marshals, no? Yung judicial marshals, aside from providing protection and security for our justices and judges, it will also aid, no, or ensure the implementation of court orders, no. So in that, itong pagka meron na po tayong judicial marshal, ang ating reliance, no, to the other agencies, branches of government will be reduced because we have our own judicial marshals to implement court orders, no. So, doon po sa writ of amparo, pag sinabing kailangan na proteksyonan yan, at kung meron na po tayong judicial marshal, papasok na po yan doon, ano. I understand po yung bill for the creation of judicial marshals ay nakatapos na po yata ng ilang readings at malapit na po yatang dinigin, no, sa plenary. So, humihingi rin po kami ng suporta, no, for the enactment of the bill on judicial marshals. Doon po sa susunod na mga katanungan ni Congressman Zarate, kung meron po ba tayong mga sa rules, no, para mapabilis, nito pong 2018, no, si Chief Justice Peralta, naglabas po siya ng guidelines. Hindi pa po siya punong maestrado noon. He was one of the senior associate justices of the court. Naglabas po siya ng guidelines at ito naman ay kinatigan ng ating kataas-tasang hukuman, yung guidelines on continuous trial in criminal cases, no? Ito pong guidelines on continuous trial in criminal cases ay naglagay na po ng mga timelines, no? O kung ganong katagal dapat ang isang hearing at ang isang kaso sa regional trial court at sa first level courts. And we have been continuously monitoring, no, yung implementation and effectivity of these guidelines. And we are very happy, no, to announce that it has been very, very effective, no. So yung mga hearings po natin in criminal cases, talagang umiksi na, no, because our courts, our trial courts, no, have been using and implementing this continuous trial on criminal cases, no. At doon po sa huling tanong ni Congressman Zarate po, tungkol po doon sa mga PDLs natin, ano, na humaharap virtually, pero kasama po yung sinasabi po na banggit po niya, kasama po yung mga kapulisan doon. So, hindi tayo sigurado if the PDL, no, can testify freely. Well, unang-una po, doon po dito sa ating guidelines on virtual hearings or online hearings, video conferencing hearings, ang ating pong akusado, no, ay merong diskresyon kung saan lulugar yung kanyang abogado. Doon ba sa tabi niya sa kulungan? Doon ba mismo sa loob ng korte? Or will the defense counsel be appearing remotely in another location? So siguro po, para kung talagang gusto nating masigurado, no, that our witnesses, especially the accused, no, will be testifying freely, siguro po, pwede naman niyang i-request na yung kanyang abogado mismo ay tatayo doon sa tabi niya, no, doon sa kulungan. No. Isa pa po, karamihan po ng ating mga PDLs who are testifying remotely are actually testifying in BJMP facilities, no? So ang nandoon naman po yung warden, no, yung BJMP warden, hindi naman po yung mga pulis mismo na nag-file ng kaso against doon sa PDL, no? So, yun lang po ang aking masasabi sa mga punto na na-raise po ni Congressman Zarate. But again, no, nagpapasalamat po kami kay Congressman Zarate sa kanya pong manifestation of support. At we are also giving the assurance to the good congressman, no, of our commitment to still improve our rules, make it more effective and efficient and responsive to the needs of our court users. Maraming salamat po, Congressman Zarate.
Thank you, Court Administrator Marquez. The Chair would like to recognize Vice Chair Jocelyn C. Lim Kai Chong.
Thank you.
But before that, I'd like to acknowledge physically present here on the floor the Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, Chairman Eric Goyap.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and I'd just like to make a brief manifestation. We are one with the Judiciary in their clamor for an increase of 6.58 billion in their total budget for 2021. And this additional allocation will improve the overall operations of our courts and will ultimately result in the faster and more efficient disposition of cases. It should be noted that the number of unfilled positions in the judiciary is lower in 2020 at 12,861 compared to 13,506 in 2019. Although this is a notable improvement, we cannot disregard how the unfilled positions in our courts is a perennial problem that hinders the swift administration of justice. In the First District of Negros Oriental, for instance, we need additional MTC judges in view of the retirement of these public servants. Judges are sitting in multiple salas because of this inadequacy of court personnel. Not only is there a lack of judges, there are also problems when it comes to internet connectivity of various courts. We know for a fact that this will serve as a hindrance in the speedy disposition of cases, especially as we make more use of electronic processes such as electronic filing of pleading, especially under the new and hopefully better normal. To contextualize the RTC Branch 64 of Gihulngan City, here's cases for the city of Gihulngan and also for Canlaon. And we have this internet connection problem. It is far from efficient as reported by the judge sitting there. They urgently need an upgrade to speed up the court transactions. And this will most definitely pose a problem if the courts will soon consider conducting virtual hearings. So I hope this is taken into consideration also by the judiciary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Jocelyn Lim Kai Chong. The Chair would recognize next Representative Ferdy Gaite. Representative Ferdy Gaite. Representative Ferdy Gaite. Next, the Chair would recognize Representative Arlene Brosas, but Representative Arlene Brosas is giving instead her 3 minutes to Representative Zarate. Representative Carlos Zarate. Representative Carlos Zarate, are you still there? And I'll call back again Representative Carlos Zarate later. The chair would like to recognize Representative Sara Elago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Pleasant
please
morning
proceed.
to the Judiciary
Representative
family.
Elago, you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, knowing how important the disposition rate is as a performance indicator to monitor the reduction in caseload per year, may we ask the Judiciary to shed light on the reason why they set lower disposition rate targets of the SCs and MTCs for 2021 relative to 2019. Mr. Chair, from a 41% target in 2019, the SCs declined to 39% in 2020 and further to 34% in 2021. Meanwhile, the MTC's target disposition rate of 62% in 2021 is lower compared to 70% in 2019. So, Ginoong Chair, nais po nating malaman kung bakit po bumaba ang kanilang target pagdating sa disposition rate, particularly for the SCs and MTCs.
Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Congresswoman Sara Jane Elago. Talaga pong for 2021, talaga pong bumaba yung aming mga target rates kasi po of the pandemic. Kasi kung aalala po natin, in the initial stages of the pandemic, we had to close our courts, tapos wala pa po tayong facility for online hearings. No? In fact, personally po, no, as court administrator, I've been court administrator for 10 years, bago po kami mag-introduce ng bagong rule or even a new technology, talagang tinitraining po namin mabuti ang aming mga judges and court personnel. No? Like let's say yung aming e-courts, no, electronic court system, we've been trying to implement that for the last 7-8 years. No? And talagang ang mentoring po for clerks of court, judges, talagang talagang we go to the courts or sometimes the judges go to our training center at talagang iniisa-isa natin yun. No? But with the pandemic, we did not have that opportunity, no, to do that kasi talagang bawal mga mass gatherings. So talagang sa pangunguna na rin po, no, ni Chief Justice Peralta, we were able to distribute itong tinatawag naming Philippine Judiciary office platforms, no? And with very little mentoring, no? In fact, pina-access lang namin sila dun sa webinar, isang webinar lang po, tinuro po dun kung paano mag-virtual hearings, no? But that came siguro mga bandang May na po eh. Kasi nagsimula pa po tayo March 17. So April we tried to procure itong mga platforms, no, to give to our court. So nagsimula na po tayo ng mga virtual hearings natin May. Again, no, talagang yung mga judges at clerks of court natin, kanya-kanya silang self-mentoring. And personally, I'm very pleased, no, to find out that with the very little mentoring, sabi ko nga po kanina, almost, I think around 100,000 virtual video conferencing hearings na po ang nagagawa natin. Ano? And only very recently, kasi nagsimula po tayo, pilot testing lang muna eh. Hindi po natin nabigyan lahat ng courts. No? So pinili muna natin yung kung nasaan yung mga matataas ang caseload. No? So definitely National Capital Judicial Region, and then the key cities in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. No? Hindi naman po natin pinabayaan yung Visayas at Mindanao. Talagang I made sure that we will be providing platforms for virtual hearings also in Visayas and Mindanao. In fact, when we were trying to review, no, kinuha natin yung mga consent ng mga judges in Visayas and Mindanao. Nung una ayaw nila kasi sinasabi nila, "Sir, mahina yung aming internet dito." But I said, "Hindi, bigyan yan, at least authorize na sila, and then let's work on the strengthening the signal, no? But at least meron na silang facility, meron na silang platform to conduct video conferencing hearings, and then let's address the concern later on, no? And naayos na naman po natin eventually, no? Kaya nga po nakadagdag din sila sa ating data na more around 100,000 video conferencing hearings. But that would justify kung bakit medyo bumaba yung targets natin for 2021, no? But now that we have already given all our courts this authority to conduct video conferencing hearings and also provide them, no, with a facility, I'm sure pag sa 2022 po tataas po ulit tayo, maybe even more than the previous years, no? Kasi by then yung ating pong continuous trial in criminal cases fully implemented na by all courts. Tapos recently nitong May 1 yung ating pong revised rules on civil procedure na kung saan pinadali na rin po natin yung mga proseso, no? Meron na po tayong mga electronic filings and submissions. Gumagamit na rin po tayo ng mga accredited service providers. Hindi na po tayo umaasa sa mga registered mail, no? So bibilis na po yan. So I can foresee, no, for 2022 mabilis na po yan.
Representative Sara Lago, you may continue.
Ginoong Chair, maaari ba nating malaman kung ano-anong mga items doon sa kanilang proposed budget for 2021 ang hindi na isama, ngunit malaki ang maitutulong, no, para mapataas ang ating disposition rate?
The Court Administrator.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, unang-una po, nandito po, meron po dito yung ano, no, yung strengthening nung bandwidth, no, para nga po mabigyan natin ng internet facility lahat po ng ating courts, no. And then of course, yung pong ating internet platforms na ginagamit ngayon talagang ano lang po yun, temporary, no? Kasi nga, we just had to procure that during the pandemic. So, doon po for 2021, sinama na rin po natin yun, ano? Nakasama na po yun na para talagang tumaas pa, no? And then, meron po tayong yung mga tinatawag na judges at large, no? And then the judges for the newly created courts, medyo hindi rin po nabigyan ng budget for 2021. Actually, yung ating pong judges at large, ito po ay bagong batas na nitong ano lang, no? Nitong siguro mga nakaraang 1 o 2 linggo lang, yung ating pong Judicial and Bar Council nagbigay na po ng shortlist for judges at large sa Office of the President, no? Yung para kung saan pipili po ang ating Pangulo kung sino pong itatalaga na judges at large. Pero nagulat po kami kasi hindi po nasama yung mga sweldo ng mga judges at large for 2021. So sana po kasama po yon sa 6.58 billion. Napakahalaga po kasi ng mga judges at large kasi po kung meron po tayong mga vacancies na pinuproseso pa yung filling of those vacancies, or kung meron po tayong halimbawang isang korte na napakataas ng caseload. Halimbawa, ang caseload po ay 1,000, 2,000. Bakit po mataas ang caseload doon? Kasi po, kulang ng korte doon, no? So, kailangan natin na we need to create more courts in that area. Pero alam naman po natin, ang creation of courts is by law. So, hindi po mabilis na proseso yon. So, judges at large can be assigned there as assisting judges. So kahit meron tayong isang judge doon, pero ang caseload niya 1,000, 2,000, we can assign judges at large in that area to assist, no? Katulad nga ng sabi ko, yung shortlist po, nandun na po sa Malacanang. So pag nag-appoint na po ang ating Pangulo, ano pa lang po tayo, September, no? So anytime between now and even before the year ends, pwede pong mag-appoint ang Pangulo. For 2021, wala po tayong sweldo sa kanila. So kaya hinihiling po din namin yung judges at large, no, para pagka na-appoint na po, meron po tayong sweldo sa mga judges at large, no. And then meron din po tayong mga kasama dito yung mga of course, maintenance of HOJs for newly created and unorganized family courts. No? Yung family courts naman po, may timetable na po yun, no, for yung first batch organized na po. So yung second tapos na rin, pero kulang pa rin tayo ng pondo for that, no. So we are also foreseeing that the second batch of family court judges will be appointed very soon kasi ang shortlist po niya nandun na rin po sa Office of the President, no. So these are some of the measures that I think will speed up the resolution of cases, no? At sinama po natin yan doon sa ating motion for reconsideration.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please proceed.
may we know from
Representative
DBM
Sara.
the reason why the items mentioned by the judiciary, particularly for improvement in internet connectivity and funding for judges at large, were not considered in the NEP?
Do we have any representative from the Department of Budget and Management attending the budget briefing right now of the Judiciary? Because there's a query from Representative Elago with regards to... Yes, Court Administrator, you would like to respond?
Yes, Mr. Chair, kung wala po yung taga-DBM, kasi kausap din naman po namin yung DBM when we initially proposed, tapos nung nilabas po nila yung NEP, no? Actually, dalawa po yung two items po yan yung hazard pay for our judges, no? And then itong judges at large, ito po yung hindi sinama doon sa NEP, no? Yung hazard, ang sagot po diyan kasi ito pong hazard pay for judges and yung some judges at large ay siningit po ito doon sa BICAM noong 2020. Kaya doon po sa budget for 2020, meron pong hazard pay for judges. Tapos yung doon sa judges at large, kasi po ano yan 150 judges at large by law, no? Pero naglagay ng pondo for I think 50 judges lang for 2020, initial, no? Hindi po nasama yan for 2021 kasi sinasabi nila ng DBM, walang NOSCA. Hindi naman po talaga magkakaroon ng NOSCA kasi for 2020, dun lang po sa BICAM na isingit. So, and that is why we are appealing for the 2021 na isama ulit. Kasi po sa 2020, nandun na po yun Salamat po.
Mr. Chair, may we request from DBM a written explanation to be submitted to the Committee on Appropriations on the matters I raised. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you
Maraming
very
salamat
much,
po sa
Representative
Judiciary.
Sara Lago. The Chair would like to instruct the Committee Secretariat to request the information in writing from DBM for such reason. Next, the Chair would recognize next Deputy Speaker Henry Oaminal. Deputy Speaker Henry Oaminal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, my distinguished colleague from Mindanao, the Honorable Dalipi, to the Judiciary family, headed by Chief Justice Peralta, and with the Court Administrator, Justice Maidas, and to my distinguished colleagues. First, I would like to make a manifestation, Mr. Chair, that this humble representation fully supports the budget of the Judiciary and also the motion for reconsideration that they have filed of that 6.58 billion pesos, including the amendment of the special provisions as cited by Court Ad Maidas. And I would just like to inform the Justice Maidas and the representative of the Supreme Court now present and the other justices that as principal author of your the Philippine Martial Act, no, House Bill number 5736. We are working hard to have the bill passed in this Congress. Tapos na sa Justice Committee, it went tapos na rin sa Ways and Means, and I had talked to Speaker Cayetano that this has to be acted by the Committee on Appropriations after this budget deliberations of the GAA 2021. And I would appeal to my distinguished colleagues that if there are any questions related to this Philippine Martial Bill, which is also known as the Judiciary Martial, I would appreciate that they will reserve their questions in the plenary. These representations would be very willing to answer such. And because in this budget hearing, you know, the Supreme Court, the Judiciary enjoys the fiscal autonomy, and we hope other matters not related to the budget would more or less not delay the approval of the budget of the Judiciary. Mayroon lang akong isang pakiusap with Justice Maidas. We had approved Republic Act 11382, and this is the creation of new RTC Sala in the city of Osamis, 2nd District of Misamis Occidental. I would appreciate, because this law was already approved way back 2018, that the Supreme Court would expedite the how do you call it, the organization of this Sala, because it is badly needed by our constituents in the 2nd District, and that is even the reason why this why I sponsored for the passage of this law, Republic Act 11382. And I would appreciate if I could hear any update from Court Admaidas on this matter. And these are only my manifestations, Mr. Chair. And if the queue is not that long, and if the inquiry are already being raised, I think it is but proper that we would now approve the budget of the Supreme Court and then terminate its proceedings, because I know we have still a heavy schedule this morning, and that will be the budget deliberations of the DILG, who has lots of allied agencies. That's all, Mr. Chair, and we would just like to hear the remarks of the Court Admaidas insofar as the organization of that RTC Sala in my district. And that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, the hardworking Henry Uaminal, the Court Administrator Marquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po, Deputy Speaker Henry Uaminal, for your manifestation of support on our motion for reconsideration. And doon din po sa inyong commitment for our judicial marshals, no? Maraming salamat po. Makakaasa po kayo doon po sa creation of new courts, no? May initial inquiry ay hindi pa raw po funded, but hopefully for 2021, no, most probably kasi kung 2018 pa po yan, so most probably 2021 funded na po yan. We will already right away make representations with the JBC that it be opened for filling up, no? And then simulan na po natin yung proseso for organization of those courts in the regional trial courts in Osamis City. I will personally look into this, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. Chair, mahaba ba ang queue? Marami pa bang magtatanong? Because if the clarifications of others, those who are in line, are already being properly explained and clarified by the court administrator, if the chair would open already for a motion for the approval of the budget of the judiciary, including all the motion for reconsiderations and the special provisions that they want to be amended.
Mamaya pa,
and to terminate the proceedings.
Deputy Speaker. We will, 3 more. Mamaya.
Okay.
So the chair would
With due respect to
recognize
those three
next
more,
Representative Ferdy
Chairman.
Gaite.
No.
Representative Ferdy Gaite.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I yield to those 3 others who would like to take the floor and make their interpellations or manifestations in relation to the budget.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker
Thank you very
Wangmanan.
much, Mr. Chair.
The chair
and,
would now recognize
again, I reiterate my full
Representative
support.
Ferdy Gaite.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for this opportunity to ask some questions regarding the proposed budget for the Judiciary. Salamat po sa ating mga kinatawan ng Judikatura kay Justice Maidas Marquez for being with us this morning. I was checking, Mr. Chair, the presentation made by our CPBRT. And I have some questions regarding the data because this concerns the adjudication of cases by the courts. One of the key sector of quick facts presented here is the large number of vacancies in our courts. Accordingly, it's 26.3%, more than 1/4. Kagalang-galang ni Chair, ano bang mayor na rason kung bakit napakataas pa rin ang bilang ng vacancies na ito? At ikalawa, ano po yung mga ginagawang hakbang ng ating judikatura para mapunuan ito? Kasi this affects the caseload of our judges and of course in the administration of justice, may malaking epekto ito sa bumabagal na proseso ng pag-decide sa cases. So ano po mga hakbang na ginagawa ng ating judikatura, Mr. Chair?
Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po doon sa inyong tanong, Congressman Gaite. Tama po, no, talagang yung vacancies, meron po tayong vacancies year in and year out. No? Doon po sa ating mga judges, kung compulsory retirement po yan, no? Meaning they will all retire at 70, napo-foresee po natin yon. So malalaman po natin kung kailan yung magiging vacancy and we can prepare for it. No? Okay lang, in some instances, no, meron po tayong biglang nag-optional retirement, meron pong nagre-resign, meron pong namamatay. So, hindi po natin yan foresee. So, only upon that vacancy will we start the processing for filling up. No? So, yun po, ang pag-fill up po ng vacancy, hindi po madali. No? Kasi pag vacant, we will declare it vacant. I-request po natin yan sa Judicial and Bar Council na i-open for application. Minsan, in some areas, kulang ang applicants, no? Kasi for every vacancy po, Your Honor, the Judicial and Bar Council will have to submit at least 3 names from which the President will choose or appoint. No? So, minsan nahihirapan din po yung JBC, yung Judicial and Bar Council. No? Pagka na-post na po yung vacancy, mag-i-interview po yan, tapos at saka po magbobotohan yung JBC, and then padadala po yan sa Office of the President. So that process itself po medyo hindi mabilis, no? And that's what accounts for this continuing vacancies, no? Meron din po tayong yung mga vacancies na for newly created courts, no? Ganun din po 'yon. Kung newly created court po naman 'yan, na-appoint na po yung judge, hindi pa po yan kaagad makakapag-perform ng regular functions kasi wala pa po yung staff. So yung judge na po yan, yung bagong judge po, yan ho ang kukuha ng staff. And we have to comply with civil service rules, no? merong posting of vacancies, and then medyo mahaba rin po yung proseso eh. Nagiging perennial data lang ho yan na merong vacancy. Kasi pag napunuan na ho natin yung vacancy, meron na naman mga bagong vacancies na lalabas. So yung 26%, minsan bumababa po yan ng mga 18, minsan 23, but dyan po naglalaro yan. Somewhere from 18% to 25% po ang vacancies. Ngayon lang po, medyo tumaas, again, because of the pandemic. No? But we would like to think that after this pandemic, and we are already beginning to medyo nasasanay na po tayo dito sa new normal na to. So medyo bumabalik na rin po yung ating mga proseso. So we would like to think that within the remainder of the year and all throughout next year, medyo back to normal na po tayo. So babalik na po yung ating yung mga meetings na tuloy-tuloy, kasi katulad po dun sa lower courts, yung vacancies sa mga court personnel, meron po tayong selections and promotions board that meets every Monday. Talagang walang paltos po 'yon. Talagang every Monday at talagang nire-resolve lahat ng vacancies na 'yan, again, natigil 'yan nung unang pumutok yung pandemic, but now we meet every Monday virtually, online. So tuloy-tuloy na naman po ulit, ganun din po nangyari sa JBC. Medyo naantala sandali, pero ngayon po tuloy-tuloy na rin po ang meetings ng JBC. So I can foresee in the next few months yung 26% na sinasabi po ni Congressman Gaite ay bababa na po yan, back to the usual siguro mga 18 to 20%, but that's the usual vacancy rate po.
Thank you. Representative Gaite, you may proceed to your next question, and the chair would like to inform you that Representative Kulyamat yields her 3 minutes. She gives it to you, so you have an additional 3 minutes, Representative Ferdy Gaite.
Salamat po, Mr. Chair. Salamat po sa kasagutan dahil aware po ang kinatawang ito sa problema talaga ng marami nating vacancies sa courts. As a matter of fact, I know some of my batchmates, UP High, who have to be paired as judges na nalayo. And it's no joke to travel, especially now with the pandemic. And of course, another problem is how to conduct the hearings. Tulad natin ngayon, virtually. It is a problem since totoo rin po, many of our judges have to be again familiarized with the new quote-unquote the new normal of conducting hearings. So tama po yung problema. In the same vein, nabanggit nyo na po, Mr. Chair, nasabi ng ating resource person, kung may problema na tayo sa vacancies and judges, nabanggit nyo rin po yung vacancies sa iba pang positions o plantilla positions. May I know, Mr. Chair, kailan po ba ngayon ang total na bilang ng positions sa hudikatura, and ilan po naman yung unfilled positions sa kasalukuyan? Again, in the interest of the administration of justice, importante rin po ito dahil kung wala rin po tayong kung wala na nga tayong judge, wala pa tayong mga justices, tapos wala rin po tayong staff, hindi mako-conduct yung mandate ng hudikatura. Bilan po ba ngayon ang total plantilla positions? Ay, yung pala, other than plantilla positions, does the judiciary also hire contractual workers or job orders or non-regular workers, Mr. Chair?
Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Congressman Gaite, for that question. Katulad po ng vacancies sa mga judges, ang vacancies po sa court personnel nationwide, naglalaro din po somewhere from mga 25% to 30%. Bakit mas malaki ng konti? Kasi po, mas marami sila. We have around ang ating pong mga judges nationwide, ang positions, no, nasa mga 2,500, 2,600, no? And then ang field nasa mga 2,000, no? So, pero for court personnel, nasa mga 30,000 po yan, no? Sheriffs, clerks of court, stenographers, clerks, no? Process servers, no? So, nasa 30,000 po yan. Ang field dyan siguro nasa mga 24,000. Again, tapos nabanggit din po yung contractuals. Okay. Kanina po nasabi ko na hindi po mabilis talaga ang filling up kasi we have to comply with civil service rules, no? Meron po yung period of posting, hindi kayo pwedeng mag-appoint kaagad, dapat tapusin yung mga periods na yan, ano? Now, nagkakaproblema po kami, katulad let's say sa stenographers, no? Meron pong mga qualification standards to become a stenographer. O dapat meron kang number of years, meron kang number of units in stenography, na meron kang training, meron kang civil service eligibility, and meron kang experience, no? So, minsan nahihirapan po tayo, no? That also accounts for the vacancy, by the way, no? Like let's say sa stenographer, although marami tayong applicants for the position of stenographer, many of them are not qualified. Kasi kulang sila sa qualifications. Kasi isa sa mga requirements, no, for one to become a stenographer, dapat meron po kayong karanasan, experience, 1 year or 2 years, depende sa level of position that you are applying for, no? Eh, wala na po silang makukuhanan ng experience. So, ang ginawa po natin dyan, for them to gain experience, no, para magkaroon po sila ng karanasan at mag-qualify for the position that they are applying for, we hired them as contractuals. And during their period of contract, no, they will gain the necessary experience. At sinasabi rin po natin, during that period that you are hired as a contractual stenographer, dapat mag-comply ka na dun sa civil service eligibility mo. Mag-exam ka na ng civil service at dapat maipasa mo na yan, no? So, yun po ang isang remedy na ginawa natin in the last 3 or 4 years, no? So, while we have a vacancy rate for lower court personnel of around 25 to 30%, eh meron po tayong mga contractual stenographers na kinuha, no? Para po makuha nila yung necessary experience, and then pag meron na po silang karanasan, they can apply for permanent positions, no? So again, while they are already doing their job as contractual stenographers, hindi po natin sila pwedeng isama doon sa data natin na filled up yung position na yun, eh, kasi contractual lang po sila, eh. So that position of court stenographer will still remain vacant until they are appointed there in a permanent capacity, no? So ito po yung some of the remedies that we are doing, no? Meron din po tayong yung tinatawag nating court decongestion officers. These are also contractual hires, no? At ito po tumutulong sa ating mga korte para maibaba yung mga caseload. And binomonitor din po natin yung data, no, ng ating mga courts. Yung initial engagement po natin ng court decongestion officers, again, these are contractuals, no? Eh bumaba po yung caseload ng nasa mga 20%, no? So again, the engagement of courts decongestion officers has been very successful, no? Again, contractuals pa lang din po yan, yung CDO. So, minomonitor po natin ang caseloads ng lahat ng korte. Pag nakita natin medyo tumataas to, at kasi kulang nga sila sa korte, then nilalagyan po natin ng court decongestion officer. Again, that is a contractual position. Hindi po yan natin na isasama doon sa vacancy rate, no? Kaya hindi natin pwedeng pababain yung vacancy rate with the hiring of our contractuals, no? But, ginagawa nga natin ng paraan at based on those ang aming data, no, talaga namang nakakatulong itong mga contractuals at napapabilis natin ang takbo ng ating mga kaso. Salamat po.
Thank you, Court Administrator. Representative Gaite, you may continue. Representative Ferdy Gaite, you still have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was muted. Salamat po sa kasagutan ni Mr. Chair dahil medyo nakaka-alarming nga po, no? Based sa data na nga na binanggit ng ating resource person, si Justice Maridas, almost a third, no? Based sa data nga ng UPR, ng UCP, ng ating sa Kongreso, almost 33% noong 2019 or 12,861 positions remain unfilled. At naunawaan naman namin yung problema. And gusto ko lang i-share, Mr. Chair, we had the opportunity to talk with the employees organizations. Marami ho silang organizations yan sa Judikatura, tulad ng PASE, ng Judiciary Employees Association. May mga unions po dyan sa Sandigan Bayan and others, pati sa Supreme Court proper. And actually, they're pushing for the collective negotiations agreement right now. And some of the concerns, at tama po nabanggit ng ating resource person, yung problema ng qualifications, lalo nung ating mga stenographers. Yung nga po because of the advent of technology, wala na raw ata daw kolehiyo o institution for learning that offers stenography. Kaya yung iba, siguro sa ibang paraan natututo, nag-aaral because of the change in technology. Anyway, natuwa kami na may effort pala na ginagawa para yung ating mga contractual workers ay nagiging regular. And this is a very concern that is very close to our heart dahil sa matagal na panahon, itong mga empleyadong ito na matagal na nagsaserve, providing regular functions, importante ito sa administration ng trabaho ng court. So, yun nga po, no? Other than ganung mga hakbang na ginagawa, na naintindihan ko na yung problema sa pandemya, there are some intrinsic problems commensurate to what is happening now. Ano mga steps po ginagawa ngayon ng court para po yung administration ng justice, yung hearing sa court, maisagawa, while at the same time protecting the safety, the health conditions of our judges and our employees. Ano po yung mga steps na ginagawa ngayon ng ating Judikatura, Mr. Chair?
Court Administrator Marquez, but before you respond, the Chair would like to remind Representative Ferdy Gaite that he has 1 minute more. So, Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat din po, Congressman Gaite. Alam ko pong si Congressman Gaite ay talagang inaalam, no, ang mga concerns ng ating mga court workers. No, nabanggit po ni Congressman yung PASE, no, yung Philippine Association of Court Employees. Ito po ang mother organization ng lahat ng court employees sa buong Pilipinas. No? And under the PASE, alam po ni Congressman Gaite yan, marami po talagang mga organizations, kanya-kanya po. No? Meron po tayong mga organization ng mga sheriffs, ng mga stenographers, ng mga process servers, clerks of court. No? At yan po, bilang court administrator, minomonitor naman po natin, meron po tayong regular dialogues with all these organizations. And nababanggit po din nila na talagang nakakausap nila si Congressman Gaite, no, dito sa sa usaping ganito. No. Doon po sa tanong niya, no, kung ano po ba ang mga ginawa natin, no, and how we are able to adapt to the tinatawag nating new normal. Katulad po na nabanggit ko kanina, talagang I think we will really have to rely already on online communications, no? Whether virtual hearing yan, virtual meetings yan, no? And slowly talagang doon na po kami papunta. In fact, dati-rati po, ang ating pong mga court workers, meron niyang annual convention, no? Talagang pupunta sa isang lugar, and then pupunta kami doon as court administrator, or minsan po si Deputy Court Administrator Villanueva, pag hindi po ako pwede, talagang makikipag-dialogue. Ngayon po, ang kanilang convention virtual na rin, no? And we are trying to adjust to all these, no? Aware naman po kami, no? Alam naman po namin lahat, halos lahat ng kanilang hinaing, no? At ito naman po ay talagang sinusubukan natin na gampanan, no? At sagutin, no? So talagang hindi po natin pinapabayaan yan, ano, ang ating mga PASE, no? Yung Philippine Association of Court Employees. Kasama po natin yan sa pagsulong ng ating hudikatura, no? Kasi kung hindi naman din po sa kanila, hindi naman po natin talaga magagawa rin ang ating tungkulin, no? Hindi tayo magkakaroon ng more efficient, effective, and responsive judiciary without our court workers. So talagang nakatutok din po kami sa kanilang mga concerns. So, maraming salamat po.
Okay. Representative Gaite, 1 minute more.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Doon sa huling siguro katanungan, bago po magtapos, Mr. Chair, nung huli kami nag-usap ng PASE, ng Judiciary Employees Association, yung union rin po sa Sandigan Bayan, sa Supreme Court proper, Court of Appeals, Court of Tax Appeals, napag-usapan na yung merong positive na tumugon ang ating mataas na hukuman hinggil sa panawagan na magkaroon ng Collective Negotiations Agreement o CNA. Naabang-abangan na nila ito dahil marami pong usapin na gusto nilang maisama para sa pagpapaunlad ng kanilang working conditions bilang mga kawani, bilang manggagawa. And more so, lalo na sa panahon ng pandemya, baka pwede hong makapagbigay ng update ano na ang status ng ating prosesong ito. At napansin ko, umahaba ng buhok ni Justice Maidas Marquez. Bukas na po yung ating mga barberya ngayon, pero yung unang tinitingnan ko, hindi ko nakilala si Justice Maidas. Siya pala yan. Pero anyway, biro lang po. Pero ano ho na po ba ang status ng ating pinapropose sa collective negotiation? So yun na po ang last question ko at maraming salamat po, kagalang-galang na Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative Ferdy Gaite. But before I recognize Court Administrator Marquez, the Chair would like to recognize the indefatigable, energetic Deputy Speaker, Dong Gonzales. So, Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po again, Congressman Gaite. Medyo kinakabahan lang ako magpagupit at baka doon pa ako mahawa. Halos araw-araw ho, kausap ko po yung ating Chief Justice. Mahirap po. So, nag-iingat lang po ako. But anyway, doon po sa inyong katanungan, tama po kayo, no? Ang huli pong pagkaalala ko dyan sa collective bargaining agreement, no, between yung nasa Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Court of Tax Appeals, and Sandigan Bayan, doon ho sa huling pulong namin, no, ang usapan po namin, mag-uusap-usap po yung mga different organizations na yon. Kasi po ang nangyari sa Supreme Court, meron silang sarili. Tapos sa CA, sa Court of Appeals, sa CTA at sa Sandigan Bayan, meron silang kanya-kanya na hindi po nagtutugma-tugma, no? So ang akin pong suggestion nung huli po naming pagpupulong ay mag-usap-usap po sila at kung maari po mag-present po ng isang comprehensive that will be uniform, no, for all court workers para po pantay-pantay, walang nakakalamang, no, kasi minsan merong benepisyong hinihingi ang CTA pero dun sa CA wala, na meron dun sa Sandigan Bayan pero wala po dun sa Supreme Court, no. Pare-pareho naman po tayong mga kawani ng hudikatura. So ang akin pong palagay dapat po pare-pareho. So yun po ang huli naming naalala kong status niyan. So ang gagawin ko na lang po, Congressman Gaite, no, we will again convene. Naputol lang ho dahil again dito sa pandemic na to, no? But since we're getting back and getting to get used to this tinatawag nating new normal, pwede na po ulit i-convene, no, yung committee na yon at alamin po namin kung ano ba ang naging takbo ng kanilang usapin, at siguro bigyan natin ng mga timelines para po talagang masigurado natin na tumatakbo po ang ating pagpupulong at talaga pong sa lalong madaling panahon mapa-aprubahan natin yan sa ating kataas-taasang hukuman. Maraming salamat po again, Congressman Gaite.
Thank you, Court Administrator Marquez. Thank you also, Representative Ferdy Gaite. Next, the Chair would like to recognize Representative David Suarez. Vice Chair David Suarez. JJ Suarez. Next, the Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
am I coming in clear now?
Yes, very clear. Please proceed.
Yes. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, Mr. Chair, and to the members of the Judiciary. I am 2-1 with my fellow congressmen in supporting the budget, and hopefully we can find a way to increase the budget of the Judiciary. I just wanted to address my question to Court Administrator Maidas Marquez. Although parochial, but this is something I need to ask. For the past few years, we've been pushing for a new RTC building for Lucena City. Ito po kasing RTC building sa Lucena City, 1930s pa yata itong building na to. And as is, it can't really provide the proper venue to address the judicial needs of the province of Quezon. And so the province pushed for a donation of lot to the Judiciary, hoping that we can establish a new judicial complex. Can I just ask from the Court Administrator, what is the status of this project, Mr. Chair?
Court Administrator Marquez.
Ay, maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po, Congressman Suarez. Well, talagang meron po tayong mga newly created courts doon, at wala pa po tayong bagong Hall of Justice, kaya ang ginagawa po natin pagka sa mga ganyang pagkakataon, naghahanap po talaga tayo, kumakausap muna tayo ng LGU, kung hindi po makapagbigay ang LGU, naghahanap po tayo ng mga lugar na kung saan uupahan po natin para doon muna natin ilalagay yung mga new courts, And in fact, in our MR, meron po tayong provision for that. Meron po tayong sa motion for reconsideration natin, talagang meron po doon rentals for newly created courts, Doon naman po sa Lucena, may kasama po tayo actually for 2021, na budget for the construction of a new Hall of Justice. So nasa budget po yun, nasa proposal po yun for 2021 at kasama rin po yun doon sa NEP for 2021. Hindi na po natin kailangan mag-alala doon sa MR kasi doon po sa NEP nandun po yun. Kasi talagang kung di po, nag-usap din po kami ni Congressman Suarez naman dati at ito naman po ay pinangako natin sa kanya. Kaya kasama po yung kasama po doon sa aming proposed budget at kinatigan naman po ng DBM, kaya sinama po sa NEP for Lucena City.
Okay, Congressman JJ, nandun na daw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we usually provide the Judiciary inter-branch respect with regards to their budget presentations here in the committee level. So if there are no other questions from our fellow colleagues,
we still have one more.
With the budget briefing for the
we still have one more. Representative Suarez, one last. The Chair, are you done with your questioning? So the chair would recognize
Okay,
next.
I will yield my motion to the next congressman for their interpolation. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Mr. Chair.
Next, the chair would like to recognize Representative Sarate. Representative Carlos
Chair.
Sarate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maiksi na lang po, no? Ang tanong ko, tungkol pa rin dito sa paghahanda ng ating hudikatura or ang ginagawa nating hudikatura dito po sa problema natin sa pandemya ng COVID. Parating ho kasi sa aking atensyon, no, na may mga korte po tayo na may mga personnel, no, na nagkakaroon ng kaso na positibo sila sa pandemya sa COVID. Pero gusto kong linawin yung protocols, no? Kung ang isang branch lang ba ng korte na mayroong empleyado na nag-positive sa COVID, yun lang yung branch na yon ang hindi pwedeng mag-conduct ng hearing. So the entire hall, where that branch is located, should be at least locked down for a few days at magkaroon ng disinfection or quarantine, Mr. Chair. Ano ba ang protocols na naka-implement ngayon sa lahat na courts, no? Including the first level courts, Mr. Chair?
Court Administrator Marquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, at maraming salamat din po sa tanong, Congressman Sarate. Katulad po ng nabanggit ko kanina, no, pagputok pa lang po ng pandemya at nagsimula tayong mag-lockdown noong March 17, 2020, siguro between March 17 and presently, no, baka nakapag-issue po kami ng mahigit kumulang 30 circulars, no, both the Chief Justice, yung mga administrative circulars niya, and yung circular ng Office of the Court Administrator. Kasi talagang minomonitor po natin yan halos weekly, no? Nag-ECQ, nag-GCQ, MECQ, bumalik ng GCQ, MGCQ. So talagang sinasabayan po namin, no? Now, doon po sa protocols, nandun na po, no? Meron po tayong mga protocols na talagang sinusunod at ito po ay nakasaad doon po sa ating mga circulars na pinalabas, no? Halimbawa po, kung meron pong yung judge mismo o kaya isang court personnel ng isang branch ay nag-test positive, no, via swab test ng COVID positive, talaga pong that branch, talagang sinasarado po natin yan for 14 days. Pero, kung yung judge po, halimbawa, asymptomatic, no, o yung judge mismo ang nag-test positive pero asymptomatic naman siya, so naka-home quarantine siya at kaya naman niyang tumuloy sa mga hearings, pwede ho siyang mag-video conferencing hearings from home. No? Now, kung ang court personnel ho ang nag-positive, again, the whole branch will be closed for 14 days, pero hindi ho sarado talaga yung korte kasi kahit nandun sila sa kanilang mga tahanan, ay pwede pa ho rin mag-video conferencing hearings from home. Siyempre, pag yung judge na mismo ang positive at medyo may mga symptoms, talagang tigil po ang hearing doon sa korteng yon at lahat po, nakasarado po yon for 14 days. And while it is closed, meron na po yung mga disinfection na ginagawa. No? Pero kung halimbawa, meron lang pong isang abogado o isang litigant na nag-appear doon sa court, no? In person, in court. Pero hindi yung ibang yun lang ang bukas pa rin ho yung korte, i-disinfect po yun. We ask our judges and court personnel to monitor their health conditions. Yung merong personal contact, yun ang pwedeng mag-home quarantine, no? For 14 days. Pero yung wala naman pong personal contact doon sa litigant o doon sa abogado na nag-appear, then after the disinfection, pwede pa po silang pumasok at tuloy po ang serbisyo ng ating mga korte. No? In exceptional circumstances, no? The judge, kung tingin niyang talagang medyo compromised na yung korte, magpapaalam lang po yun sa Office of the Court Administrator to conduct video conferencing from home. No? Ito po ang kagandahan nitong ating bagong virtual hearings. No? Kasi kung talagang hindi mo pwedeng gawin ng in-court hearings, no? Because the location, the court itself has been compromised, pwede pa hong tumuloy ang trabaho ng ating korte in different locations virtually, no? So, ito po ang mga protocols na pinapatupad natin during this pandemic, no? At talaga namang, syempre, ang talagang tinitingnan namin, well-being and safety also of our judges and court personnel. At the same time, we have to balance this, no, with our responsibility, with the court's responsibility to the court users, no, that the justice system, even in times of emergency, must continue to work. No? So yan po ang aming mga protocols. Maraming salamat po, Congressman Zarate.
Yes, Congressman Zarate, for your next question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Administrator Magdas. Kadugtong pa rin po dito, may tanong ko lang po, may provision po ba ang Judiciary, for example, doon sa pag-conduct ng mass testing, no? In particular location, for example, or judicial region, or even in a particular Hall of Justice kung saan nandoon yung mga maraming korte natin na in the event na nagkaroon ng transmission, no, ng COVID-19. Tinanong ko po ito dahil alam naman ni Court Administrator Maidas yan, yung mga abogado, no, na naglalagari yan. Kung yung abogado na naglalagari ng appearances, no, pumasok sa maraming korte, so the possibility of, halimbawa siya ay naging asymptomatic siya pero naging positive siya sa COVID-19, lahat ng korte na pinasukan niya ay posible, no, na magkakaroon ng transmission. So siguro very extreme itong iniisip ko. Kaya natanong ko lang, sa inyo bang budget na pinapanukala ngayon at kahit doon sa naka-MR ay meron provision for this kind of service, no, na yung mass testing, no. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na ito yung, of course gusto natin yung RT-PCR, the gold standard, no, but for example yung antigen testing, no, to just test like yung ginagawa ngayon dyan sa House of Representatives na before you come into the meeting room, no, budget briefing room, ay nagsaswab, no. So yun yung panghuli kong tanong, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat sa nagiging mga tugon at kasagutan ni Administrator Maidas. At sa inyo, Mr. Chair, maraming salamat po. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Representative Carlos Zarate. For the reply, Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. As of now, really, no, for 2020, and even in the MR, wala po talaga tayong provision for mass testing, no? Because minomonitor lang po natin on a weekly basis, no, kung ano nangyayari at sumusunod tayo po sa mga nilalabas po ng DOH, no. Kailangan po ba i-test lahat? Ang latest ay parang wala namang kailangang mass testing unless meron kang symptoms, no. So ang nangyayari po for now, kung halimbawa sa isang LGU, no, yung ating Hall of Justice doon, merong ang abogadong labas-pasok at nakikipag-ugnayan po tayo doon sa LGU. And as of now, ang LGU po, no, ang gumagawa ng mga testing for our judges and court personnel. But from our end po, no, from our end, if the judges and the court personnel would like to have their own tests, meron na po kaming recommendation sa Supreme Court that expenses for testing be reimbursed to our judges and court personnel. No? So I don't see anything. I don't foresee that that will be denied. No? So nakapending na po yun. So maybe soon that will be granted na po. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Court Administrator Marquez, and that would be the last. And don't worry, this representation, together with the chairman of the Committee on Appropriation, will look into the requests of the Judiciary, particularly the 6.58 billion pesos, which is really needed by the Supreme Court and all of its, to respond, especially to the new normal. On a personal note, I'd like to thank the Judiciary for the 4 new RTCs which they have supported, which I have filed for Zamboanga City, and we are just awaiting the Department of Budget and Management to fund the 4 new regional trial courts which this representation authored in the House. And also, the Supreme Court, in another point, the Supreme Court designated 11 expropriation courts for Duterte's Build, Build, Build projects last August 20 through Supreme Court Memo 08-2020, but only 11 special courts. These are all in Luzon. So the Chair would like to relay this information to the Judiciary for our request for the inclusion of Visayas and of Mindanao in the list of the Supreme Court's designated special expropriation courts to handle expropriation cases in Mindanao and in Visayas. This is to address the impending volume of expropriation cases. And if we can expedite, this would help fast-track the Build, Build, Build program of the Duterte administration. And please consider especially Davao City and Zamboanga City in this request. Court Administrator Marquez.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. I am very much aware of this resolution of the court. Ako po mismo ang nag-recommend, no, for the designation of these special courts. At kausap po namin dito ang DPWH. No? With regard your request po for the specially designated courts in Visayas and Mindanao, ako na po ang magko-commit that we will also recommend. Aalamin ko lang po with DPWH kung saan po mismo itong mga projects na to, no, para we can designate specific courts in that area to address those concerns. Hindi po matagal yon, sandali lang po gawin yon. At ako na po mismo will commit that I will personally look into this, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Court Administrator Marquez. The Chair would the Chair would like to acknowledge the presence via Zoom, Congressman Ruel Gonzaga, and also the other members of the House who are monitoring us via video conferencing. Also, thank you very much to Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta for being also present in the Zoom video conference. Deputy Speaker Gonzales.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on that note, I move to terminate the budget of the Judiciary for 2021. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
There has been a motion to terminate the budget briefing of the Judiciary. Do I hear any second?
I second.
Duly seconded, the budget briefing for the Judiciary is terminated. The Chair calls for a 10-minute suspension. Also, the Chair would like to request all the guests participating in the Zoom meeting, those coming from the Judiciary, to leave the Zoom video application so we can accommodate the next department, which is the Department of Interior and Local Government. So again, our guests from the Judiciary attending via Zoom video conferencing app, please leave the application.